Alright guys, we are going to continue with chapter 33, and we're going to get a little bit of a different perspective here from Mai and Kwang Ha. Mai stayed after school on Fridays to participate in a program for at-risk teens. They didn't call them that though, they called them special enrichment students, but of course she knew. Mai had read the pamphlet describing the funding for the project. It was on the desk of the team leader on the first day of the meeting, so she wasn't really snooping or anything. She was curious what they thought she was at risk for. Once a week, dozens of chosen kids met at the school library to discuss everything from setting your sights on college to the importance of getting your teeth cleaned. Today, a woman was talking about eating green vegetables and doing extracurricular activities to build your resume. When she finished, they were all given little tickets. At the end of the program, they could turn them in for prizes or something. The team leader wasn't super clear on that. Mai loaded her backpack with new books from the school library and walked to the bus stop. Most of the kids who weren't at risk had their own cars to drive home or parents who would pick them up, so maybe, Mai thought, the risk part involved riding the city bus. The bus shelter in front of the school had a flower bed with the toughest roses in Bakersfield. Or at least, that's what Mai thought as she stared at the thorny bushes. One of the few things that Willow had said in the last month was that everything in life could be seen in a garden. According to her, if a plant was in decent soil and had sun and enough water, a bud would at some point show up. It would start small and very green. Sometimes bugs ate holes in the exterior of the bud, but if they didn't get too deep into the thing, it wouldn't bloom, and the world would see the flower. And with time, the outer petals would start to wrinkle, beginning at the tips. The shape couldn't hold the whole thing up, and the whole thing would open up big and then sloppy. The rose was now more affected by wind or rain or even hot sun. The petals would finally just dry up and break away and fall to the ground. That only left the round bulb, which was the skull of the thing, and in the time it would finally drop as well, returning to the soil. There was as much of a lesson in that, Willow had explained, as in anything she had been told by anyone about life, death, or the stages in between. What was the rose before it was a rose? It was the soil and the sky and the rain and the sun. And where was the rose once it was gone? It returned, Mai figured, back to the larger whole that surrounds us all. No one ever picked up Kwang Ha from school, so when Del Duke's car screeched to a stop right at his feet, he was alarmed. The smudged window slid down and Del shouted, "Hey!" The boy could feel his whole body tense. You don't say hey to someone named Ha. And then Del shouted, "Get in! We're on a tight schedule." Kwang Ha didn't budge. "What's going on?" Del reached across and opened the door. "Ask your mother. She's running this scam." Del didn't explain much, just that Patty and Willow were at his apartment fixing it up to make it look like they lived there. It all seemed pretty shady to Kwang Ha, but he called his mother on his cell phone and she told him to load up the cooking stuff from their garage. He was supposed to take the blankets and the sheets and the bathroom things too. He was pretty sure that it was the dumbest idea in the world, but he crossed the alley and took the sweaty counselor with him. Over a month, Kwang Ha had been sleeping in the same room with a complete stranger. Maybe someone was finally going to do something about that. Del stood in the doorway of the garage and he stared. No wonder they used his address. This place didn't even look legal. Del had assumed that they had lived in a house or at least a real apartment, so this was a shocker. Where did the woman get all of her attitude? After he and the lone wolf, who might actually be an oddball, had placed the rice cooker, bamboo steamer, and wok, half a dozen bowls, tongs, and a collection of chopsticks, 2 meat cleavers, 3 cooking pots, and the bedding into Del's truck. They filled an old milk crate with food, and they grabbed some stuff from the bathroom in the salon. They were back on the road. It felt to Kwang Ha like some sort of prison break, but by the time they swung into the dusty carport of the gardens of Glenwood, he was even more on board with the whole plan. It seemed obvious that they were going around the law, or at least defying some rule or regulation, and to Kwang Ha, that was exciting. Chapter 34. Is there a more personal piece of clothing than someone's underwear? I don't think so. Del wears all different styles. He has a great variety of colors and a shocking number of patterns. He is heavy on the cartoon characters and images of vegetables, and that's truly disturbing. And it is truly disturbing that I now know this. This man is not just my counselor. He's also supposedly monitoring my schoolwork, although in 5 weeks that has never come up once. I can't believe we don't just leave his I can't believe we don't just leave his privates in the closet, but Patty is all about doing things the right way, and that means getting involved in someone else's obsessive-compulsive underwear disorder. It takes us 3 trips to haul the mountain down to the laundry room, and after we get the first load started, Patty morphs into some kind of human tornado. Earlier, I realized she was just some sort of tropical storm, but by the time Dell and Kwang Ha come up the stairs carrying the boxes of kitchen stuff, we have mopped the floor, which turns out to be a shade of orange, not brown, cleaned the microwave and all of the counters, and filled 8 trash bags with more trash bags. I know a lot about bacteria and germs, so this is all very challenging for me. Dell has barely finished bringing up the stuff from the garbage when Patty hands him another list and shoves him back out the door. Kwang Ha stays with us. Everything in Dell's apartment looks gray. This is because somebody put a canvas tarp over the skylight in the living room, probably to cut down on the air conditioning costs or something. Now that tarp is coated with atmospheric dirt. Mold and mildew stains rim the edges where the water must collect. So when you are in Dell's living room, no matter what the weather is outside, overhead it appears that a CAT-5 hurricane has just descended. Patty has her hands on her hips and she's squinting up over the covered skylight. She says, "It's not right." The look on Patty's face isn't good. I stare up with her. It's like a giant dirty diaper is on the ceiling. She calls for Kwang Ha, who has just been given a large plastic bag of wine and beer bottles found under the bathroom sink to take downstairs. Patty points skyward. "I want you to go up onto the roof and take off that tarp." In a month, I have never seen Kwang Ha happy, so his current scowl is just more of the same, and he said, "You just told me to throw away these bottles." Patty says, "Do both." And I feel bad for him and offer, "I'll help." Kwang Ha doesn't want my assistance, but his standard operating procedure is to ignore me completely, and I'm okay with that. Now he grabs the heavy bag and heads to the door. I will follow. We are both in the hallway, and he's lugging the bag of bottles. He should leave them if he's going up on the roof, but he doesn't. I don't say anything because he's older and can't stand me, and also because I rarely talk now. He's only here cleaning up because of me and my problems. There's a stairwell at the end of the corridor and a sign that indicates that it leads to the roof. I wish that Kwang Ha would put down the bag of bottles, but I think he's trying to prove something to me, like maybe that the big bag isn't too heavy for him, even though I know that it is. I've lifted more things today than I have in the last 6 months. Kwang Ha goes right up the narrow steps, and there's a door at the top with a sign that says "Roof access for maintenance workers only." I don't think we qualify, but Kwang Ha just pushes the door open anyway. The sun is sinking, but outside it's still bright. There are 10 skylights and 10 dirty old tarps, so Dell isn't the only one with the interior shades of gray. I can see that Kwang Ha is confused, and I pointed to the left side of the building. Over there, the third one is his living room. He isn't going to argue with me, because after over a month of living together, he knows I really only state the facts. Kwang Ha still has the garbage bag as he moves across the hot roof, and again, I follow. I'm not sure why I'm his little kid shadow, and I can see that I'm only making everything worse. There are bricks that hold down the corners of the tarps, and when we reach what is Dell's unit, I lift one. Kwang Ha bends over and with his free hand pulls on the dirty piece of canvas. But the trash bag slips from his other hand, and the bottles spill out, and one crashes right at his feet. The glass shards go flying, and several pieces land on the clear plastic of the newly uncovered skylight. The Olney would have screamed from the crash. The Newmie expects these kinds of things, and the Newmie is actually kind of surprised that we weren't cut up from the airborne shards. Kwang Ha was angry before, but now he was really angry. He starts to pick up the broken glass, and I move quickly to help. Standing over the skylight, I see that there are glass pieces that have caught the sun, and they send small spots of color down into the room below. I glance over at Kwang Ha, and he sees it too, and I say, "It's like a stained glass window." Kwang Ha is silent, but he takes his beer bottle and breaks it, and then he positions a piece of amber glass on the surface. A chunk of orange-brown light now hits the carpet below Dell's place, and we exchange looks. We don't say anything, and then we go to work covering the entire skylight. We end up breaking all of the bottles to get enough glass pieces, and I find this to be strangely enjoyable. I can tell Kwang Ha feels the same way, even though he is silent, while we smash what appears to be the result of a real drinking problem. When we finally finish, we go downstairs, and Kwang Ha opens the apartment door, and we can both see right away that the room has taken on a totally different quality. The light. The chunks of green and amber filtered down from above, and what was an ordinary, soulless feature is now suddenly interesting. We're standing there, staring up at what we've done when Patty comes in, and I don't want her to be mad, especially at Kwang Ha, and I say, it's temporary. I'm surprised when Patty only says, Kwang Ha, you can arrange the furniture if you have a better idea of how it should go, and I'm not surprised when he does. Kwang Ha puts everything in a different place, setting the couch and the chairs on an angle. He doesn't follow the lines of the rectangular room. He makes his own shapes. And when he's done, I want to say, there's a qualitative difference in the visual effect of this room, but instead I say, the room looks better. Kwang Ha just shrugs, but I can see that he's not scowling anymore. This is the first thing that we've done together, and I realize that feels strange for us, for both of us. And I'm forced to admit that being in a room with a teenage boy who appreciates the effect of shattered glass slices of color makes me feel better about the world. Chapter 35. Dell pulled his name out of the mail slot for number 28 and replacing it with a slip of paper on which Kwang Ha had artfully written Nugent. Then he made a beeline for his car, driving away just moments before Lenore Cole pulled up to the curb. He headed straight for the closest bar, which was called the Hammer. Most people in Bakersfield went to the Hammer when they crashed their car or lost electricity in a heat wave or had all their ice cream melt. The bar was a misery magnet, and no one put on their best sweater or skinny jeans to go to the Hammer, and that's why Dell felt at home there. Now, as he drove into the parking lot, he let out a sigh of relief. He had gotten away from Patty Nugent. Dell found himself mumbling out loud as he opened the car door, "Who died and put her in charge?" And then he remembered that 2 people had actually passed away, and maybe he was the one who had inadvertently put Patty Nugent in charge by getting her pushy daughter involved. All Dell really knew with certainty was that now someone was steaming mounds of spinach in a kitchen that had never, under his watch, seen a vegetable in its raw form. At least all of his underwear was being washed. Once inside the dimly lit bar, Dell found a seat. As he leaned forward onto the sticky countertop, he took a pen from his pocket and he slid the thin cocktail napkin closer. He was looking to regain control, so he returned to the Del Duke system of strange. He wrote 1. Misfit, 2. Oddball, 3. Lone Wolf, 4. Weirdo, 5. Genius, and then he added his newest category, 6. Dictator. Mai had to take a second city bus across town to get to the gardens of Glenwood, and she was not happy about it. She called her mother from the salon, and that was when she found out about the visit from Child Services. Shouldn't someone have told her what was going on? Now, an hour later, Mai's arms ached from carrying her heavy backpack. But inside, she felt a different pain. She had to question the logic of pretending to live in Del Duke's apartment. Maybe Willow should have gone right after the accident into foster care. Her mother had made it clear they weren't in any position to take on another kid. She had tried to help, but what if what she had done ended up hurting Willow even more? Mai aimed her right shoe, which wasn't more than a satin slipper, and stepped down hard on an acorn. But the nut line in the middle of the cracked sidewalk didn't squish under her foot. Instead, it was solid and tough, and it hurt, and it was like stepping on a pointy rock. Mai felt her whole body stiffen. So many things caused unexpected pain. Mai kicked the acorn and it flew across the sidewalk out onto the street, and she watched as a passing car ran right over the still green nut. Mai moved to the curb to get a better look. The acorn hadn't flattened. It rested on its side in the middle of the road, unharmed. Mai dropped her backpack and went to retrieve it. The acorn was a survivor. Mai stuffed it into her pocket. Lucky. That's what the nut was. When Willow wasn't paying attention, Mai would slip it into some place that she would find it. Tomorrow, we will continue with Chapter 36.